Right from Colorado, M. Curtis McCoy. Let's give it up for Curtis!
Thank you. Hey, thank you. Thank you guys. Appreciate you having me here. You guys hear me okay? How many of you guys have heard the story about the fourth grade teacher that was wanting to teach an inspirational psychology lesson to her students? You ever heard that? So this lady is standing up here. She's a pretty new teacher, and she'd done this course over the summer about inspirational psychology. And she was super excited to teach this to these fourth graders. So she asked the class, she said, first off, stand up if you feel like you're stupid. She looked around for a little bit, and this little kid in the back kind of looked side to side, and pretty soon he stood up slowly. And so she looked around, he's still the only one standing up. She said, Larry, do you feel like you're stupid? Larry said, no ma'am, I just felt bad for you standing there by yourself. So I'm going to ask you guys a favor here. If you would, don't make me feel stupid like a fourth grade teacher that's talking to a bunch of kids not paying attention. Have the courage to raise your hand if I ask you something that applies to you. How many of you have gone through something just terrible in your life? I mean, everybody's gone through junk that sucked here. Child abuse, any of you, I know some of you I've talked to or abused as a kid. Drug addiction, maybe a divorce or somebody cheating on you. There's all kinds of different things. We're talking about addiction, alcoholism, being abused. At 27 months old, I was diagnosed with diabetes. Started having seizures. About 7 or 8 years old. When I was around 12, we were forced by the judge to move in with my biological dad, who is not a great guy. And as I got older, he kind of played the favoritism where my little brother would get in trouble and I'd get beaten for it. And so that went on for years. And at one point, those of you that were here last time heard me talk about my dad telling me, he told me I was a waste of skin, waste of oxygen. And at one point, he'd been beating on me for hours. The night before, I had stood at the foot of his bed as he slept. So I got beat for 6 or 8 hours. I'm standing there watching him sleep. And the next morning, it's back to work, more yelling abuse and stuff. I'm now sitting in the bathroom floor crying, and he'd been whipping on me and stuff for a while. Come in and told me, you're a waste of skin, you're a waste of oxygen. Took a .357 Magnum pistol, spun it, closed the revolver, and handed it to me and told me to do the world a favor. So that's something that's that stuck with me for years and really had a big impact on my self-worth. I'm feeling like if my own dad is telling me to kill myself, telling me I'm a waste of skin, what good can I actually be? And so I hid that story for years and years. I mean, I spoke at Caesar's Palace, and everybody thought that I was this professional business guy owning all these companies and stuff. But I hid that because I didn't want to be seen as, you hear the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I didn't want anybody to know that I'd been abused or anything. So I tried to hide it, but I wasn't being my authentic self. So after that, I was getting older. I started having 7 to 10 seizures a week. I built some really successful companies. One of them had over 250,000 customers a month on our phone company. I launched a cosmetic medical laser clinic, a pharmaceutical company, a Christian clothing company. So it had multiple 7-figure companies and felt like I was crushing it. But again, still had no sense of self-worth. And so as that was going on, I'm thinking I could have given up at any time there, and people would have people would have agreed. Yeah, that kid was abused as he grew up. He was having seizures. He survived brain cancer. He was diabetic. Had these different things, and I would have had an absolutely valid excuse to give up. You guys also, if you've been abused, if you went through drug addiction, if you got a problem speaking, you've got an absolutely valid excuse to give up and become absolutely nobody. You just become an average Joe, and nobody would look down on you for it. They just go, yeah, that's what they're meant to be. But that's not what God wants you to be. God wants you to be amazing. He wants you to be incredible. He wants you to live your best life and be able to uplift and inspire and encourage others. And the reason, thank you. And the reason that is because when people see somebody that's successful, you look at Craig, you look at Roger, you look at these guys that are crushing it, and we're all sitting around the table, we're trying to figure out, what did these guys do to get where they're at? How did they get that level of success? Now, if you're living the way you're supposed to live, and you're inspiring people to want to follow God, give them a little bit of Jesus, and you're living that successful life, now you're a threat because people are going, I want a little bit of what this guy's got. If you're average, doing absolutely nothing with your life, nobody wants to be like you, working the 9-to-5 job and going home struggling to pay your bills. Going out, stepping outside of yourself and becoming an absolute beast is what you're supposed to be doing. What's your word, Craig?
Juggernaut?
Juggernaut, yeah. So if you become a leader like that, so you're a threat and the devil will be working harder against you to try to make you fail. So if you got problems in your life, that's because you're doing the right things. If life is super easy, you've got no problems, no struggles, you're probably going the wrong direction or you're just not doing enough. So I'd just like to encourage you guys, step out there, do something, take some challenges and step out there, get uncomfortable. Some of you guys know I survived a malignant glioblastoma brain tumor. I was given 60 to 90 days to live in 2010. I had lost the ability to communicate, could not speak, couldn't write. When I tried to write something, it would come out random words like a stroke victim. And so for quite a while, I was wanting to speak, wanting to connect with people. I'm like, I can't even finish a sentence. I can't even remember what I'm supposed to talk about. How am I going to get up and talk in front of people? So I had an excuse to give up. But if I would have, I'd still be doing nothing. You go back to Roger and Craig, and pretty much everybody has talked about personal branding and reaching out there and putting yourself out, becoming known, becoming somebody recognizes. So I talked about the companies. I had built these massive companies. One of them, Best Cellular. I own the trademark on the term Best Cellular. So Verizon, the different phone companies cannot use that term. They can't say that they're the best cellular service. They've got to say it a different way. Kind of cool thing there. But when Best Cellular went under, we closed that. Nobody knew who I was. I owned a cosmetic laser clinic. I owned a company that was manufacturing bioidentical injectable research peptides. Like I said, had multiple 7-figure companies. And every time those went under, I had failed to create that personal brand. So we'd work building the company brand, making the company where everybody knew it. And as soon as something changed there, I was starting from scratch again. So that'd be the biggest recommendation I've got for you right now is if you can take that, make your name something that everybody recognizes. First off, buy your name as a domain name. If your name is John Smith, probably gonna be a $100,000 domain, but maybe add a middle initial, add something else that makes that relevant. And but get that domain name and then start marketing on social media. And another thing is getting featured in the news, getting featured on podcasts, especially podcasts that are transcribing the audio. If they've got a web page that's dedicated to you. So like on mine, mcurtismccoy.com / the guest's name. So I got Daniel Gomez on there. It's / Daniel Gomez. It's got the written show notes. But podcasts like that where they've got the written notes help out a lot as far as search engine optimization. And then getting featured on media, magazines. You can get on Fiverr, some different things like that. Get a $15 magazine article that nobody will ever see. So some of those are wasting your money. You don't want to be doing like a PDF magazine that nobody's ever going to see. It's just paying for your ego. But there's other ones, if you can afford it, start getting in the bigger tier magazines. I was in USA Today like 2 weeks ago, something like that. It's a $15,000 ad spot. So it's worth investing to get your name out there. And part of that, Newswire, you'll see Daniel. We've got quite a few of the speakers that were here. Will was going to be here. He had COVID, but you get some massive traffic out of that. And one of the cool things, if you sign up for Daniel's package, you're not able to sign up on the magazine directly through me, but you buy that package with Daniel, and that's included. He went out of his way to make sure that was something you guys could have to gain that personal branding. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me up.